All right, you are the CFO, and a few of your employees have brought up a couple of projects for you. We have 3 different projects here, 2 of which are generating returns of 11%, and they have the appropriate costs associated with them. And you have project number 3, which is going to be at 7% and has that cost associated with it as well. So we are prioritizing these according to their rates of return. We don't really care about what the actual cost is. Unless there's not enough money, of course. But we are just prioritizing them because we're going to do projects 1 and 2 before we do project 3. We're not even considering project 3 until we make sure we have enough until projects 1 and 2 are done. Okay, so we're going to set up and we're going to do project number 1 first. It has a cost of $550. We are comparing that to the weighted average cost of capital. Now remember, this part here is referred to as that investment opportunity schedule. Okay, that is this graph line that is downward sloping. We then have the marginal cost of capital, which is upward sloping. We don't have to draw the graph here, but we do have to look at this and compare the costs. This is precisely what the CFO is going to be doing. Okay, so we have project number 1 as $550 and we relate the 11% to 1%. Is 11% greater than 1%? Yes, absolutely it is. This is going to generate 10% in profits for us because it's only going to cost me 1% in funds, and I'm going to return 11%. Okay, what about the 550? Is that going to be able to get fully funded? Yes, it is. Project 1 gets done, and we now no longer have the funds available at 1% any longer because all those funds were used for project number 1. Then we're going to go down to project number 2. Okay, so project number 2 is we're looking at is we have a return of 11%, cost of $20. We're going to look at the next available funds that we have was that we now have $80 of funding available at 2%. Okay, so we are going to put that in there. Is 11% greater than 2%? Yes, it is, and so we're going to use these funds. Okay. So what we have is that can this $20 get funded at 2%? Yes, it can because there's 80 available and we only need 20. Okay, so project 2 is going to get done. Check. Okay, and as we're working through this, is that we still have at 2%, we still have $60 remaining, right? Because we only used of this $80, we only used 20 of it. Okay, so we're now going to go up to project number 3, and we're going to see if we're going to do project number 3. We're comparing project number 3 as a return of 7%, has a cost of $720. When we then put this over here, is that the 7% is greater than 2%, so we would borrow the $60. Okay, but then that's still going to leave us $660 remaining. Okay, at 7%. So we are going to then strike through this funding here and then come over and look at compare that to the next borrowing you have to do. And there's a substantial jump in our borrowing costs when we go from the 2%, we now are at 17%. Is 7% greater than 17%? No, right? So what we have here is that we are not going to be borrowing money at 17% because we only have a return of 7, right? So we're going to be losing money if we go after this project. Okay. Now, what we said here is that we said, all right, yeah, we're going to fund this amount right up here. Well, that is only going to be the case if we can do a partial project. Since we're assuming here that we can't do partial projects, we are not going to do project number 3 because it has a return of 7%, and we can't get it funded for an amount under 7%. Okay, so the total amount, so our total in dollars amount is going to be the $550 on project number 1 plus the 20 on project number 2. So we're going to be at $570 of total funding.